Hey guys, welcome back to I'm Just a Fan. It's your host, Ben. And today we're going to be talking about why the Eagles need to win Super Bowl 59 and how much it would mean for this city and this franchise. This video is going to be a little bit more off script. It's really me just gushing about this team as an Eagles fan. And again, just kind of getting into the importance of this game and overall just the impact that it's going to have on the franchise if they do end up winning it. This team is so special. They are just so special. And I felt like I was saying that about the team 2 years ago. And I've really been trying to reflect the last couple of weeks, specifically this last week and a half, waiting for the Super Bowl to start, just thinking about the 2022 team and how it compares to the 2024 Eagles team. And the biggest factors for me that have changed how I feel about this 24 team compared to the 22 team is, number one, I think Jalen is, just in my opinion, better against the blitz, which is something he struggled with at times last year and in the 2022 season and even before that. There have been games where he still has struggled a tad with it this year, but I do feel like he's improved on that. I also think Nick Sirianni and Jalen Hurts' relationship has obviously gotten a lot better. It didn't seem like it was in a bad spot in 22, but things really seemed to boil over in 23. And there was even a little bit of tension heading into this season, but they seem to have cleared those things up. And I just want to give my hat off to both those guys. I have a ton of respect for them for getting over their differences for the bigger goal. And that's all that's going to be remembered in this town and for the rest of their lives if they win this game. No one's going to really be thinking about that beef. Now, obviously, if it comes up again in the future, we'll see. But regardless, you get that Super Bowl. There was beef with the 2017 team with Nick Foles and Carson Wentz, and did Wentz mesh well with the teammates, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, that's still a talking point, but number one, that wasn't as big of a talking point as Nick Sirianni and Jalen Hurts was, in my opinion. Number two, they still won the Super Bowl, and that's all that matters. And that's just how I feel about this team. So I think Nick and Jalen have really done a ton of improving both football-wise and also when it comes to just how they handle themselves as men. I think, of course, this is an obvious one. I've talked about this extensively already, but Saquon Barkley is just the ultimate X factor for this team. It's no slight to Miles Sanders. It's no slight to Boston Scott. Kenny G was still on that team in 22, and he's been a great player this year, so I'm not slighting him at all. It's no slight to DeAndre Swift last year. But this guy is just a better football player than all of you guys. And he just impacts the game in a way that really, I would say maybe 5, 6, 7 backs all time can impact a game. This guy has had his talent fully unlocked. We saw it a couple seasons in New York, but to see what he's done in the first year behind this Philadelphia offensive line, I'm never forgetting this season, regardless of how it goes, because his home run threat is it's out of this world. You'll just be hanging out watching the game, bang, Barkley run. Oh, you think that's enough? No, we're going to dial up another one. There was just so many examples of it this year. The multiple runs against the Rams in the regular season and in the postseason. The multiple runs against the Commanders in the regular season and the postseason. I'm trying to think of other plays where he absolutely just broke one to the house. The New Orleans game, which is very fitting because they're playing back in New Orleans. Those are the ones that come off the top of my head. But he's just made so many plays. I mean, he had the backwards hurdle, had a couple great catches as well in that Green Bay game and the Week 1 game, and also that Jacksonville game. He's just been such a playmaker, and I feel like he's obviously elevated this team to another level that I didn't even think that they could get to. And I think people forget that the Eagles in 2021 and 2022 rushed for 2,000 yards as a whole as a team. I feel like that doesn't get talked about enough, and now it's not getting talked about enough even more because this man Barkley is doing that just by himself. We're not even counting Jalen Hurts rushing yards this year. So to just see this running game fully elevated to where it is at, it's just very, very, very cool to watch, and just something I'm never going to forget as a football fan. And I'm just so grateful that it's with my team and one of my favorite players of all time. I also have a ton of faith in this offense in general. I still don't think that they are maybe as creative play calling wise with the plays compared to 22, but it hasn't really seemed to matter this year. And I think they know a little bit more of their identity this year. It's really ground and pound, waste some time in possession, give Jalen those throws that he needs to make, and you win the football game and you don't turn the ball over. I think that has been a huge factor of why they've been so good this year as well. And then, of course, on the defensive side, I wouldn't say it's night and day, but they were just two different defenses. Gannon, he formed his defense based off of Fangio's. Gannon, in my opinion, he was an interesting one because he had, I think the Eagles were the best defense that year. Or they were maybe like a top 2, top 3 defense. It's one of the best defenses I've ever seen for the Eagles. And it's no slight to them at all. I still will take that defense against a lot of other units. But just to see how they've somehow improved this year even more, which is just crazy to me. And again, 22 was more of a pass rushing team. They had, again, Hassan Reddick, Fletcher Cox, Ndamukong Suh, Linval Joseph, Brandon Graham. Those were really the guys that were making plays. Hassan Hargrave, I don't know if Hargrave. I don't know if I'm saying his name right. Still had Milton Williams. But they were really, really, in my opinion, elevated by that defensive line. I felt like the linebacker unit for 22 was underrated with Edwards and White. But that secondary just was not as strong as it is this year. I loved Bradbury that one year, and I thought Slay played a really good year there as well. But their third corner was always a weakness with Maddox or the other backup I'm forgetting. And their safeties just weren't as good at the time. Reed was still a rookie, though he played overall. I thought he played all right in 22. But Marcus Epps, who did play all right, but come on, it's Marcus Epps. This guy is not really a elite talent. And they did have Johnson as well in 22. But when you look at the 24 defense, I just think they're a better unit overall. And it's just crazy to me that they're doing this with really only a few players coming back, a new coordinator in his first year with these teams. And it's just pretty insane to me. Again, Jalen Carter has been an absolute threat at defensive tackle. Jordan Davis has really gotten better, in my opinion, over the last couple of years. He's still not that elite level player, but he knows his role, and I think that's what JD thrives in. He's going to stuff the run, and he's going to occasionally get to the passer. Brandon Graham was great for half of the season until he got hurt. Let's hope he has a big game if he does play on Sunday. Nolan Smith, he has been fantastic at the end of this season, specifically in the playoffs. I mean, he's had a sack every single game. Zacchaeus Hunt is getting some pressure. Milton Williams, again, making plays. There's just been a lot of guys stepping up. Zach Baun in that linebacker unit has been doing his damn job all year. Oren Burke stepping up for Nakobe Dean. And again, in the secondary, it's just miles better, in my opinion, than in the 22. Darius Slay still playing at an elite level. Cooper DeJean and Quinyon Mitchell are playing fantastic football as rookies. Reed Blankenship has only gotten better. And Gardner Johnson, again, in my opinion, has played very good football and is also a more physical football player. You see him making a lot more tackles in the backfield, or that hit against the Panthers where he just killed a guy. You didn't see a ton of that in 22. I just think this team is better overall, and I just think that they need to win this game. This game has so much implications on Philadelphia sports and for the Eagles in general. I mean, we don't have to rehash it too much as a Philadelphia fan. It hurts to talk about, but, you know, we've had the Sixers the last, I don't even know how long the process has been going on, pretty much 2013, 2012, around then, but they've disappointed us every single year, not being able to get over the hump. The Eagles obviously did win a Super Bowl in 17, but they lost in 22. That's, in my opinion, the worst sports loss in my life. The Flyers, they've been treading water. They've been okay certain years are not. They're starting to rebuild now, so they're giving us some hope, but they haven't been fantastic. And then the Phillies have come back to life, which has been great to see, but at the same time, they have let us down. I'm not going to get on them for 2022 because who thought they were going to go on that ride? And you kind of just ran into a buzzsaw with the Houston Astros. But 23, that one really stings for me. The fact that they lost both games 6 and 7 in Philadelphia to the freaking Diamondbacks when you're up 3-2, it really is embarrassing. And I just don't know if they've been able to fully recover from that because now they get the number 2 seed in the playoffs and they get bounced by the Mets in four games or 5 games. It's just stuff like that is just like really tough to take. And I just think this Eagles team getting a win here would be huge. Again, it cements the Eagles as they already are an elite organization, in my opinion, but it takes them to another level. It's your third Super Bowl appearance in 7 years. It would be your second Super Bowl in 7 years, which is absolutely insane. Doing that also with a new coach, new quarterback, almost overall new players as well. There's really only a couple returning guys like Lane Johnson and BG. It's just insane to see what they are doing. And I just think this would be huge. You would be beating the Chiefs. You would be stopping the Chiefs from getting the three-peat. That is something that's never happened in NFL history. The New England Patriots never did it. The Pittsburgh Steelers never did it. Who else? The Dallas Cowboys never did it. The 49ers of the 80s and 90s never did it. No one has ever done this. And for the Eagles to stop the Chiefs like they did with New England in 2017, to stop them from winning a three-peat, it would just be phenomenal. It really, really, really would be some phenomenal stuff. And I would love to see it happen. Again, it would put so much respect on the organization's name. Not that there isn't any already, but it would put so much respect on them. I think it would make Howie Roseman a Hall of Famer. He would have 2 Super Bowls under his belt now as a GM. And again, he did it with all these different talent, has a new coach as well. I think this does so much for Nick Sirianni. He's, in my opinion, becomes the best Eagles head coach of all time. Yes, I love Doug, but Doug didn't take us to 2 Super Bowls, and if Nick gets one of them, I think that's huge as well. And specifically for Jalen Hurts, I think this game means so much for Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts has been doubted in a really, really weird way that, in my opinion, doesn't make total sense from the national media. I am also, of course, a Philadelphia fan, so I am biased. I love the guy, but he is a stand-up guy. He doesn't get in any off-season bullshit. He doesn't BS with anyone. He's not getting in legal trouble. He's a stand-up guy. Sure, he talks in riddles, and he's a little cryptic at times, which, yes, can it be annoying? Sure. But is this guy a good guy overall? 100%. And does he bring it and you know he's not going to fuck with you and he's just going to bring it, he's all football? Yeah, and he's laying it on the line. He came back in that Rams game with the banged-up knee. I'm not saying he looked phenomenal, but you know he wanted to play. He wanted to come back in that Washington game when he got concussed this year. Obviously, they ruled him out, but he wanted to come back in. He is a true dog, a true winner. He's won at the college level, and I don't see why he doesn't win at the pro level. And just think about this. He's been to 2 Super Bowls. He's been to more Super Bowls than Aaron Rodgers. That is crazy to me. More Super Bowls than Aaron Rodgers. More Super Bowls than Drew Brees. That is ridiculous. That is ridiculous. So I just think it would be so big for his legacy to win. And anytime people would talk shit on Jalen Hurts going forward, I would just be like, hey, he helped them win the franchise's second Super Bowl. He beat the Chiefs going for the three-peat. He beat Patrick Mahomes, the second best quarterback of all time, in the Super Bowl. I mean, what would you be able to say about this guy? He would have a ring before Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, Justin Herbert. Like, I don't think the national media would be able to handle Jalen Hurts winning a Super Bowl. So I would love to just see how the narrative changes. And again, I'm biased. I want the Eagles to win. I don't want the Chiefs to win. And sure, if the Chiefs win, they get the three-peat. I'm not denying greatness. Greatness is a great thing. I am one of the few people, in my opinion, that likes greatness in sports, but not when it gets in the way of my team. And I think America is rooting for the Eagles strictly just because people really are fatigued with the Chiefs. I'm not there personally, but a lot of people are. And I just think this team is just really due for it. They've been the best team in football all year, in my opinion. The Chiefs haven't passed the smell test throughout the year. Now, I will say that I'll give them credit. They've gotten better at the end of the year. They really started to kind of find their footing. But for a good amount of the year, I was like, man, this team reminds me of the Eagles of 23. They're just winning one-score games, barely winning them. And that is only sustainable for so long. But, of course, it's Kansas City, and they're a historic team, and this is just what they do. So it doesn't matter. But the Eagles, in my opinion, when you put the body of work for them against the Chiefs, they've just been the better team. They're the more dominant team. They blow teams out. Kansas City does not blow teams out. They don't do that. And I just think this Eagles team, in my opinion, just deserves it more. They've been through, like I said, as I highlighted in the beginning of the video, they've been through so much adversity. I remember being a fan last year, and it was probably the darkest days of being an Eagles fan so far in my life, just because everyone knew what was on the line. You have a Super Bowl roster. Though looking back last year, no way that was a Super Bowl roster with that defense. But they were a Super Bowl roster or close to it, and they were just very, very, very badly underachieving. And to see them rise against the adversity this year, all the chit-chat with Jalen and Nick, and all the BS and just everything, and to rise up against it this year, and to go back to the Super Bowl, to go play the Chiefs that beat them 2 years ago, it just feels like it's their time to win the Super Bowl. And it would just be phenomenal to cap it off with a Super Bowl win. And I think a Super Bowl win would cement the Eagles, or this Eagles team, as the best Eagles team of all time. So that's just how I'm feeling as a fan right now. It's kind of how I'm feeling going into the game. I think the Eagles win. I think it will be close because, again, everything's close with Kansas City. But it wouldn't shock me if the Eagles won by 8, 10 points, something like that. I just think they are the overall better team. This game's going to come down to time of possession, and it's going to come down to turnovers, which you can say about any football game, but it's what both teams excel at, so we'll see. But I just really want this team to win. I just feel like the Eagles deserve it this year more than the Chiefs. They're just the better team, and I just am really taking my bias aside, still pulling for more of the stories for the Eagles. Again, Jalen Hurts overcoming the adversity, Nick Sirianni overcoming the adversity, Saquon Barkley finally getting out of a bad situation and making the most of his opportunity. Seeing this defense get it done at a historic level. Brandon Graham capping off potentially his last game ever with the Super Bowl, his second Super Bowl. And getting all this stuff done for Kelce and Cox last year. I mean, I was so annoyed that those guys had to retire after losing to Tampa. It was disgusting. It makes me sick to this day that the Eagles went out that sad with those guys. They should have gotten a ring in 22. It is what it is. They didn't get one. But to make up for it this year would be huge. So I just really hope they get it done. And if you like this video, feel free to give it a like. If you have any comments, drop them down below. If you like this type of content, subscribe. But yeah, go Birds. Let's get this W. You'll probably be hearing from me before the game. But if not, we will be having a Super Bowl preview next week. And be on the lookout for that. Peace, guys.